You glance at your phone. 1 bar, maybe 2, you tilt it toward the window. Hold it higher, wait, nothing loads. You have lived this moment 100 times. Hold that feeling, because Amazon just spent $11 billion on a solution to it. 3,236 satellites, orbiting 360 miles above your head. A private constellation bigger than anything ever built. Here is what they told the public. Fast, affordable broadband for unserved communities around the world. That was the exact language in Amazon's July 2019 press release. Noble, clean, inarguable. But here is what stops you cold when you look at the actual numbers. Amazon's entire physical store business, every Whole Foods, every Amazon Fresh, every Cashier Let's Go store in America, generated less than $19 billion in 2023 revenue. The company is spending more than half of that on satellites. That is not a consumer play. Consumer plays do not cost $11 billion before a single subscriber signs up. Starlink already has over 5,000 satellites in orbit. It has a 3-year head start. A lower price point, and Elon Musk filing objections with the FCC to block Amazon's orbital slot requests. The broadband market Amazon is supposedly entering is already occupied. So why is Amazon still building? Why does the company have $120 million going into a satellite processing facility at Kennedy Space Center right now? The answer is not in the press releases. It is in a specific FCC license filing. One document, one filing number. When you read what Amazon actually told federal regulators this service is for, the $11 billion stops looking like a bet on your phone signal. It starts looking like something else entirely. By the end of this video, I will show you that filing. The number, the language, the exact words Amazon used with regulators that never made it into a single headline. Once you see it, the whole picture shifts. Here is the official story. Amazon wants to connect the unconnected. That is not spin, that is the actual language from the July 2019 press release. Word for word, Project Kuiper will provide fast, affordable broadband to unserved and underserved communities around the world. The FCC's own 2023 broadband data collection confirms the problem is real. 5 million American homes have no access to broadband at any price. Rural counties in Mississippi, Wyoming, and Alaska sit below 1 megabit per second average. The gap exists, nobody is fabricating it. And Amazon's investment sounds proportionate to the ambition. Dave Limp, the senior vice president overseeing Kuiper, said publicly in September 2023, "We've invested over $10 billion in Project Kuiper, and we're now ready to launch our first production satellites. $10 billion to close a national infrastructure gap." Sounds like a mission. The economics do not survive contact with reality. Starlink launched its first satellites in 2019. By late 2024, SpaceX had over 6,000 operational satellites in orbit and 4 million paying subscribers globally. 4 years of runway, 6,000 satellites. And Starlink still posted operating losses through 2023, according to reporting by the Wall Street Journal. Consumer satellite broadband is expensive to build, expensive to maintain, and brutally price sensitive. The customers who need it most are the ones least able to pay $120 a month for a terminal. Amazon's $11 billion entering that market, against an entrenched competitor with a 4-year head start, makes no financial sense as a consumer play. None. Here is where the filing says something the press release does not. Amazon's 2024 annual 10K does not list Kuiper inside its retail segment. It does not list it inside its advertising segment. It buries Kuiper inside the AWS segment. Amazon Web Services, the cloud division. That is not an accounting technicality. Segment classification in a 10K reflects how management actually thinks about a business. So if QARPU is an AWS product, not a consumer product, then who is the customer it is actually built to serve? Here is what Amazon paid to move its own data in 2023. Over $1 billion every year. Gone to third-party carriers, Comcast, AT&T, Lumen, regional telecoms, just to shuttle information between AWS data centers to enterprise customers and across Amazon's fulfillment network. Bloomberg Intelligence put that number on the record. $1 billion annually to use somebody else's pipes. That is not a rounding error. That is a structural tax. Amazon has been paying it for years. Look at what the FCC licensed. The approval document, DA 20-1077, does not authorize a broadband service for rural households. It classifies QARPU as a non-geostationary fixed satellite service with explicit provisions for gateway earth stations co-located with existing infrastructure. Read that again slowly, co-located with existing infrastructure. Amazon's existing infrastructure is AWS. The $107.6 billion revenue engine disclosed in its 2024 annual report. The FCC did not license a cable company. It licensed a private backbone. This is where the story changes. Every satellite dish in that filing is not a consumer antenna on somebody's farmhouse roof. It is a node in a network designed to carry Amazon's own traffic. Warehouse to data center to delivery fleet, fulfillment robot to inventory system, without a single dollar leaving to a third-party carrier. AWS enterprise customers get something too. In regions where terrestrial fiber is controlled by state telecoms, parts of Southeast Asia, Sub-Saharan Africa, South America, there is no competitive alternative. Amazon would not be buying connectivity from those carriers. It would be selling connectivity to customers those carriers cannot reach. The math is brutal in its simplicity. Eliminate the outbound transit bill. Monetize the same infrastructure as a premium AWS service tier. The satellite constellation pays for itself twice. But here is the question that changes everything. If Amazon is building a private telecom backbone disguised as a public broadband service, what happens to the carriers that currently charge Amazon to move that data? They are not losing a customer. They are losing one of their largest ones. So who blinks first, and what does Amazon do to make sure it is not them? AT&T, Verizon, and T-Mobile built the network you use every day. They buried fiber, raised towers, negotiated spectrum licenses, and spent decades turning wireless connectivity into a utility. Combined, they carry trillions of dollars of data traffic annually. They are, by any measure, the infrastructure of American communication. Amazon watched all of that, and then it started building its own version. The playbook isn't new. In 2005, Amazon was paying UPS and FedEx to deliver its packages. By 2022, Amazon Logistics was handling over 60% of its own deliveries. And the carriers that once had Amazon's business were watching from the outside. The same move happened in computing. Amazon once bought server capacity from external providers, then built AWS, then started selling that capacity to everyone else. Morgan Stanley flagged this pattern in a 2023 research note. Analysts identified Project QARPU as a direct structural threat to carrier enterprise revenue, specifically the backhaul and data agreements that keep large logistics operations, including Amazon's own, connected to the national grid. In April 2023, Reuters reported that Amazon and Verizon had signed a commercial agreement around QARPU connectivity. The framing in most coverage was partnership. The actual structure was something else entirely. Amazon was the infrastructure provider. Verizon was the customer. The carrier was paying Amazon for satellite capacity, not the other way around. Read that again, Verizon paying Amazon for network access. The company that spent billions building cell towers across America is now writing checks to a retailer for connectivity infrastructure. That is not a partnership. That is a reversal of the entire power structure of the telecommunications industry. The carriers are not being disrupted by a startup they can acquire. They are being outbuilt by the largest logistics company on Earth. One that has done this before. Twice and won both times. Which raises one question nobody has answered cleanly yet. If Amazon is selling capacity to Verizon today, what is Amazon building this network to carry tomorrow? Remember that signal bar, 1 bar, maybe 2, tilting your phone toward the window hoping something loads. That image opened this video for a reason. Amazon spent $11 billion, and that bar is not what they were buying. Here is the filing that changes the frame entirely. FCC License DA 20-1077, approved July 2020. Classifies Project Kuiper as a fixed satellite service with gateway Earth stations explicitly co-located with AWS infrastructure. Not a consumer broadband license. A backbone license, the language is precise. And precision in regulatory filings is never accidental. Amazon's own 2024 annual report confirms it. Kuiper sits inside the AWS segment. Not North America retail, not international. The accountants placed it exactly where the strategy lies. What that means plainly, the real customer is not you. The real customer is every enterprise running workloads on AWS. Every Amazon warehouse robot that needs always-on connectivity. Every delivery van routing through a fulfillment algorithm at 3 in the morning. Bloomberg Intelligence estimates Amazon's annual third-party telecom and data transit bill at over $1 billion. Kuiper is the infrastructure that makes that bill disappear. Permanently, no carrier to negotiate with. No undersea cable operator to pay. No off-ramp for the enterprise clients already inside the AWS ecosystem. That is the actual return on $11 billion. Not subscription fees from rural households. Cost elimination at industrial scale. Compounded annually forever. What flows downstream to you is quieter but real. AWS prices, prime delivery speeds, and the unit economics of next-day shipping all depend on what Amazon pays to move data. If Kuiper works, that cost drops in ways no competitor can match without writing their own $11 billion check. The satellites you will never see are doing the work you already benefit from, or pay for depending on how you read the bill. One filing number, DA 20-1077. 4 pages of regulatory language that described an empire's nervous system while the press releases talked about rural broadband. The door was always open. It just required reading the fine print to find it. Subscribe, a new breakdown like this every day.